is choosing to play cards that are very good against Belcher.
So my main concern is I wanted to see who's actually moving first. Oh, wow, Daniel's just passing the turn? Wow, okay. All right. This means maybe he mulligan or something like that. Maybe he just needs one more ritual effect to go off. Also, when they pass the turn on turn one, it's very clear what's happening here.
Could be man. I guess he chose to play.
He chose to play. Normally, it could be Manless Stretch if he was on the draw, but if he chooses to play first, which he obviously has, there's a very small range of decks this can be.
It appears that he has a 5-card hand. So.
Yeah, so he's done some mulliganing here. Now, actually, if Maag doesn't know what Brown is playing, he can kind of hide some information about what's going on. You see a tropical island here from the wooded foothills. But we'll see how this breaks. Now, if you didn't catch a good look at Maag's hand, he does have a copy of Force of Will. There's also a Daze hiding out over there.
Tough guy.
Real tough guy.
This is the type of hand that Belcher would struggle to beat on 7 cards. On 5, it's going to be really tough.
You have to get a little creative, I will admit. And Daniel Brown will just pass the turn back. Maag will take a draw. I believe that might be a SCGPROV. I would concede so fast. I would concede so fast right now. Oh, you can't show him? You're going to show him 2 empties, 2 cups of Hieratic Ritual, a Desperate Ritual, and a Rite of Flame.
You got to take that one to the grave.
If he doesn't know that you're on Belcher, you got to run with that hand to the grave.
And based on Alex's kind of body language and facial expression, when he drew the SCGPROV and put it through on the table, I think he was basically saying, I want to know what's going on over there, because this doesn't make any sense.
It's a dead giveaway now. It is a Belcher strategy. And Maag is going to draw a card. It's a copy of Ponder. Now he just wants to work his way towards getting it. Now Nimble Mongoose big, making sure nothing happens. He has a Force of Will along with a Daze and then a Ponder for another blue card. So realistically, he doesn't have to do too much now.
Yeah, if I'm Alex here, I'm just casting the Tarmogoyf and then doing all the fanciness next turn. Get your clock into play and then start filling up your graveyard.
Yeah, that's pretty much all that it takes. You got Wooded Foothills is going to get sacrificed here for a volcanic island. So after the shuffling and presenting, it seems as though we'll see a Tarmogoyf here, and Maag does have the necessary protection to move forward. And here will come the Tarmogoyf. It is a 2-3 now. Sorcery land in the graveyard with the opportunity to get much bigger. As Brown will pick up his hand, he will take a draw. It's a Simian Spirit Guide. There's the starter that he's looking for. He can go from Spirit Guide to Rite of Flame to the other rituals and Hope. That's pretty much all that he can do.
And unfortunately, I think SCGPROV is going to end up ruining Daniel here. If Alex was not working with information, he may want to wait to stop the theoretical Goblin Chart Belcher, but now he knows he needs to stop a Dark Ritual because Daniel is trying to build towards a Storm spell.
Yep. And you got to see if Force of Will take care of the Desperate Ritual. If I'm Alex, I actually would wait one more because he knows all the contents. He knows all of the cards in his hand, and he knows the Simian Spirit Guide was the draw to start things off. So he knows he's going to go from 1 to 2 with Rite of Flame, 2 to 3 with Desperate Ritual, and in order to do anything, he has to go from 3 to 4. So he actually has to cast another ritual. So I would actually snag the other ritual, and I'd probably do it with the Daze.
Yeah. Unfortunately, no matter what, Alex can't miss by too much here as long as he just doesn't allow an empty to resolve.
Yes. That's all that really does matter here. So you're going to see an attack here for some damage. Tarmogoyf checking the size. It is a 3-4. You got instant sorcery and land in the graveyard. Nimble Mongoose simply a 1-1 right now. Only 4 cards in the graveyard. Misty Rainforest could be the 5th. Lightning Bolt could be the 6th.
But Daniel is going to, it's basically impossible for Daniel to reassemble a hand capable of winning the game from here, especially given the amount of time he has.
There is already a winner in this game, even though the cards are still on the table.
He drew a starter.
Oh boy, look at you go. Lightning Bolt is Alex's draw. He can give Threshold to his Nimble Mongoose right now if he'd like. He can play a Misty Rainforest, attack with both of these. He can fire off a couple copies of Lightning Bolt, sack these fetch lands here, put the graveyard up, and really just get this game over with.
Yeah, this is 4 different hits of 3 points of damage here, so Daniel's going to 3.
Yep. Tarmogoyf's not going to get any bigger, of course, because the graveyard doesn't change. There's already instant down there along the sorcery and a land, but the graveyard does now have 7 cards in it, so you've got 3 from each bolt. That's 6. 3 from the Mongoose is 9, and 3 from the Tarmogoyf will make it 12. Brown is going to be at 3, and I don't think there's a draw in the world that exists to get him out of this. As a copy of SCGPROV is going to put him down to 1. Get a little info, see a Daze. This is what I have, and that's going to do it. Alex Maag is going to win game number 1 here over Daniel Brown. Rug Delver up a game over Belcher. Daniel Brown getting the bad side of the pairings here. Not able to draw to the top 8.
It's unfortunate, but for Belcher to end up 7-1 towards the end of the Swiss rounds, a lot of things have to break your way, either matchup-wise or with the Force of Will decks just not drawing Force of Will.
Yeah, especially with how the format has kind of shaped up. You've got a lot of Delver decks running around, and decks with Force of Wills nowadays. They're not anything like Maverick out there for the most part. So
far fewer freebies. I mean, what are your freebies that are popular here? Elves, pretty close to a freebie.
Yep.
Death and Taxes in the games they don't have Thalia.
They
still have Revoker, I guess.
I would consider Death and Taxes a freebie. They don't interact with you on any level that matters until the second turn of the game, and your hand had to be pretty bad for that to actually be the case.
You have the Burns and the Dredges of the world, but it's a pretty small sampling of decks.
Yeah, I mean, even if we take a look at the people who are in the top 8 already, you've got Van Meter playing Sneak and Show, that's a Force of Will deck. Feline playing High Tide, that's a Force of Will deck.
Flusterstorm deck.
True. Betcher playing 4-color Delver, that's a nightmare. Shields is playing Death and Taxes, so that one's not so good. And the Miriam is playing Combo Elves, that one's pretty good for you too. So, there are 2 decks that are okay. You're not sure what Jason Ellis is playing just yet, but for the most part, the way that Legacy has evolved, Belcher has a rough area here.
But it still gets his freebies.
It certainly does do that. We'll take a look at the sideboards here for Daniel. Not a lot to look at, which also makes this awesome. His sideboard is 4 copies of Guttural Response. Normally I would keep going, but those are the only cards that are there. So we might see those.
Belcher is I really love Belcher sideboards. I've seen a variety. I've seen 0-card sideboards. I've seen a Tog plus 14 other ATOGs in the sideboard.
That's the best one.
The Sliver package I've seen from time to time. And this is the first time I've seen 4 Guttural Responses. Why this instead of Pyroblast? Because this is castable off of gray mana, and the deck does generate gray mana on its main phase sometimes.
Yes, it does. You've got yourself some Elvish Spirit Guides. Manamorphos can provide green. The Taiga can tap for green. Same thing can be said for Lotus Petal, stuff like that. So that's exactly why you see the Gutter Ball. Gutter Ball and Pyroblast, for the most part, are going to counter all the same cards.
Yeah.
So that's exactly why that's there. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Gutter Response come in for something. That's it. On Alex's side, he's already got a good matchup. Does he have anything else to help?
He's got a little bit. He's got 2 Graph Digger's Cages, a Sulfur Elemental, a Light from the Loam, 2 Rough Tumble, a True Name Nemesis, a Spell Pierce, a Pyroblast, 2 Red Elemental Blast, a Flusterstorm, and 3 Submerges. The Flusterstorm, the Spell Pierce are for sure coming in. I actually think the Rough and Tumbles will come in as well, as that gives Alex some insurance in case Daniel tries to go off through Empty the Warrens instead of Charbelcher.
That's pretty much it right there.
Pretty easy. But yeah, Alex matchup here is quite good.
Yeah, Rug Delver is the one that you don't really want to play against any Delver deck, but Rug Delver especially, you don't want any part of this deck.
Yeah, a lot of the times, you're playing against the Bug Delver decks. They don't necessarily even have 4 Force of Wills in their main deck, and they have these Abrupt Decays and that kind of removal. The Rug Delver deck is just much more streamlined, much faster, and 4 Stifles in Alex's list as well causes even more trouble.
People were cutting cycles. Actually, it's a nightmare playing against Gataxian Probe.
Oh, yeah.
Come on. They know what to counter.
Yeah, that game, if Alex doesn't know Daniel's hand, maybe he's able to empty for 10 cards, 10 goblins, and he's got a shot.
That's truthfully the way that I used to get some wins against Force of Will is, you have to be kind of deliberate with what you're doing, but you're hoping that they don't counter the right spell, and then, maybe you cast a Desperate Ritual, and then you're like, remove Spirit Guide and empty, and maybe you can get them that way. That's not always the case, but you're hoping that maybe they make some sort of error, as you see a Lotus Petal here. But Gataxian Probe actually takes that part away, too. Here's another Probe. You see that Force Will? I do, too.
Well, this is a game where he might be trying to go off through empty, in which case, this Force of Will needs to stop a ritual.
Oh, there is a ritual.
And does Alex say stop here, or does he try to get greedy?
See if this one resolves.
Alex is giving this a long pause.
Yep, this one I think is the one that's going to get countered. Yeah. I wonder what else is in Daniel's hand right now. I know he has a Tinder Wall. I want to know what the other card is, because he has an empty too.
But he's out of mana currently.
So he's going to sacrifice this. He's going to play Tinder Wall. He's just going to pass the turn back. My real question here is, what was the other card in his hand? There's a Wasteland. There may have been a way for him to go off there. He's just going to pass the turn back.
If he orders differently?
Yeah, if he orders differently, because it really depends on what the last card in his hand is, because he can go Rite of Flame. He's got 2 red, and then he can use the other Lotus Petal to cast Tinder Wall. And then he can, if that gets countered, then he can go, okay, I have 2 mana floating, Pyretic Ritual, other ritual, kill, and then put empty into play.
Yeah.
So it actually just depends on what the other card is. That's all.
Looks like Alex has finally picked up a colored mana-producing land.
And now there's Delver's Secret, so there's the clock.
And he's found another Force of Will, too.
That's not so bad. Brown takes a draw here.
Look at that hand. Daze, Stifle, Force of Will, 2 Ponders.
There's a Spirit Guide, another Tinderwall. Now he's going to use these just to cast and empty the Warrens. And that'll be for, this is a Belcher and hoping for the best. Okay. That must be what the other card was.
Yeah.
Because if the other card's Belcher, then it doesn't matter what he did. And here's a Daze now. And there's a Simeon's Spirit Guide. So maybe it was another Belcher, not sure. There's a Force of Will to take care of that Belcher, so.
And now Daniel has been rendered permanentless, close to no cards in hand.
And again, the reason the sequencing matters so much there in the opening turn of the game is because he casts Rite of Flame and it resolves, and then you play Tinderwall and you've got 2 red floating. Presumably Tinderwall's going to resolve, so then that comes in. You sacrifice that, and you're able to cast Empty the Warrens.
Yeah, since Tinderwall is plus mana,
yes,
that turn, you need to open with that stuff so you have the most resources. You can't run out of mana and have that card left over because that could have been a facilitator if you'd ordered your spells differently.
And as it turns out, the way that things go, if he goes petal, Rite of Flame resolved, he's got 2 red, and he casts Tinderwall. I would be very surprised if Alex actually counters that card.
Yeah.
And you use the petal, and then you just sacrifice the wall for 2 red, and you've already got 2 red floating. That puts you up to 4. That puts you into empty. And then you might be able to actually sneak by his Force of Will.
Mm-hmm.
But by casting the Ritual, you only have the petal out there, and you have no mana floating. It's very easy for him to go, all right, I'll counter this now. You have no mana floating. All you have is a petal. You can't go off through that.
Yeah, and it's not like he has to tag the Char Belcher if that's the output.
Yeah.
He can just stop it right there, and it's unlikely for Daniel to be able to continue to go off.
Yeah. By the way, it seems like Brown may have had a realistic shot at getting the job done here, and it looks like he may have just misordered his spells a little bit, and now Delver, well, once they take advantage of this, there's almost no coming back. Their draws are just better than yours.
And yeah, Daniel has no way to reassemble in time, and this is part of the problem that Rogue Delver presents is it's not only the disruption, but how fast it can kill you as well.
So here comes Delver and here comes Tarmogoyf, and we've seen this song and dance before, actually just a few minutes ago in the last game.
Looks like potentially an unfortunate pair down here for Daniel. Probably the lowest tiebreakers of all the X1s.
And you could argue like the worst matchup for him too.
Yeah.
I mean, it might not be 100% the worst, but it's really right up there. Rogue Delver is not a deck you want to play against when you're playing Belcher at all. You have to get very, very creative to win. And now Brown is just going to concede the game. Alex Maag is going to win this match over Daniel Brown. 2-0. Rogue Delver taking down Belcher. And with any luck for Alex, this should lock up his top 8 slot.
Yeah, and no shame there to Daniel. Good run with Belcher, but that matchup just not a lot to be done.
Not so good. So I believe we're going to be getting another match ready here for you guys. So we can now lock in a 7th person into our top 8 here. Again, Ross Merriam, Jason Ellis, Chris Van Meter, Feline Longmore, Dave Shields, Jared Betcher, and now Alex Maag.
And, 5 of those names I would say of the 7 you rattled off are very consistent performers on the Open Series or Grand Prix, people that are essentially household names.
Yeah, and Jason Ellis is actually a household name in this area. Ross Merriam actually drove up here with him, so I assume he's from the Connecticut area, which is where Ross is from. So.